Hey everyone, and welcome to UK Media Warrior. I'm going to be looking at the new season 10 opening episode for Doctor Who, called The Pilot. Now, it's Peter Capaldi's last throw of the dice as the Doctor. He's bowing out at the end of this year, and as of yet, we don't really know who we're getting in his place. It could be another male Doctor, or, and my personal hope, it's a female Doctor. And if they're going to go for a female Doctor, my personal choice would be Hayley Atwell, who played Agent Carter in the Captain America movies and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She supposedly wants the role when she was asked about it, and I think she'd make a perfect Doctor. And I think it's about time we had a female Doctor. So that would be cool. But anyway, at the moment, we've got Peter Capaldi, and in this episode, so the first of season 10, called The Pilot, he broke in a new companion, Bill Potts, who's a girl, played by Pearl Mackie. Pearl Mackie, yeah. Now, this first episode has had critical success. I mean, the reviewers seem to love it. I don't know what it is. I've always been a lifelong Doctor Who fan. I was brought up on the old Doctors. My first Doctor, I started watching Doctor Who at the tail end of John Pertwee's run. So my Doctor was really Tom Baker and the 4 or 5 years that he played the Doctor. I'll always have a spot in my heart for him there. And although there have been some good Doctors since, Peter Davison, his successor, David Tennant was fantastic. I think I always judged the Doctors by Tom Baker's iteration of that character. And it's a lot to stand up to, because Tom Baker was really cool and really good in the part. But this new version of Doctor Who, since it started with Chris Eccleston, a few years back now, it's sort of been up and down. There have been some excellent stories, and I'd even say there have been some excellent seasons of Doctor Who. But there seems to have been a lot more filler episodes, some weak writing, some terrible plot developments, some questionable choices on his companions. I don't know. It's been a lot more hit and miss than I remember the older Doctor Who being. Now, if you go back and watch those old Doctor Who's now, obviously you're going to look at them and go, "Oh, well, this doesn't hold up to the new stuff." But you have to take in mind that these were decades ago. This was a different generation back then. At the time when I watched Tom Baker, Peter Davison, John Pertwee, these were fantastic science fiction shows, and most kids watched them Saturday night, sitting on the floor in front of the television, and that's what it was. It was a family show. These days, I don't really know what it's hitting for, what it's aiming for. It's obviously aiming for the die-hard fans. It's trying to bring in new fans of a new generation, and perhaps that's it. Perhaps I've just hit the nail on the head. They're trying to bring in the kids and the younger generation from this generation, and it's not perhaps aimed at appealing so much for someone like me in his mid-40s who remembers, with a warmth, the older Doctors and how good they were in my youth. Perhaps that's the problem. But as I say, I love David Tennant. Matt Smith was okay. Chris Eccleston, yeah, there's moments. Peter Capaldi, I've just never been able to get to grips with. He had a terrible first opening episode where he was introduced as the Doctor, another Stephen Moffat episode. And I've never been able to get to grips with him since. His companions have been okay. I mean, Clara, I actually quite liked Clara. And at times, she had more depth and intrigue to her than the Doctor did. So I think that might have been the problem I'm having with Capaldi. When him and Clara are wandering around the universe together, I was more focused and interested in what Clara was doing at times than I was to what the Doctor was doing. And I'd never had that problem before. David Tennant, Matt Smith, they were an energizing force on the screen. They drew your eye. They made you want to watch them. But for me, Capaldi, although he's trying to put that essence into his Doctor, he's trying to be a little bit manic at times, he's trying to be a little bit weird and way out, it just doesn't hit for me. And that's just me, personally. But this episode, sorry, the pilot, we're back to the pilot. A lot of people have said this was done so that it could, anyone who hadn't seen Doctor Who before, they could start with this episode and move forward from here, because it does a lot of explaining about the Doctor, the TARDIS, and that sort of thing. So you could easily start with this one, ignoring the decades and decades of previous Doctors, and just move forward from here. You could do that. But this episode really wasn't good. I mean, the plot was paper thin. It didn't explain the bad guy really in any depth. We don't know how this puddle of water, lubrication fluid, whatever the hell it was, because that wasn't really described, managed to not only travel, but could travel through space and time. Fast. Now, we don't know. It wasn't explained. It was just, oh no, here it is, run away. Oh no, here it is again, run away. It's like, that, you need something in the bad guy. You need to feel some threat from this thing. And I think the threat was missing, even though they tried to make it look scary with a few screams from the puddle girl and a few creepy scenes. It really didn't come over as like a Cyberman or a Dalek or, you know, a real threat, a real enemy to the characters on the screen, because you didn't know what it wanted. So it could have been a perfectly harmless, you know, entity, and, you know, there was no threat there at all. We just never knew. And then you've got Bill Potts. To me, at least, she's basically a black Rose Tyler. She speaks the same. She lives in a flat similar to Rose Tyler's, the one she lived in. She lives with her mum, as Rose Tyler did. She has a low-paying, sort of like middle-class, lower-class background. She works in the kitchen in a university. There's so many similarities between her and Rose. It's almost hard to miss, but you can't miss it. And I don't understand why they've done this. They've tried to make her look weird and odd in the way that she looks at the world, the way she looks at the universe, the way she interacts with things. For example, rather than saying, well, Doctor Who, as everyone would normally say, she says, Doctor what? Who says Doctor what? I mean, what sort of human being, if you're introduced as the Doctor, would say, well, Doctor what? That's not even English language. That's not a way of looking at the world. That's just someone who doesn't have a grip of the English language. The fact that the Doctor says, oh, I noticed you because when you find something that you don't understand, you smile, while everybody else frowns in concentration. Once again, smiling at something you don't understand doesn't generally mean that you're a smart, intelligent person. It normally means it's going straight over your head and you don't really get what's going on. She sounds thick. she doesn't seem to have a grasp. She's like an airhead. She doesn't have a grasp of what's going on around her. They try and make her, in this episode, they try and forge this connection between her and this girl Heather, who she meets, well, 2 or 3 times. Once when their eyes meet across a crowded club, and 2 when she sits next to her on a bench outside the university, has a brief chat to her. And then they go to this construction yard somewhere where there's this puddle on the floor. You don't know what's wrong with Heather. You don't know why she's so down and nervous and depressed. You really don't find out why. And supposedly there's this immediate connection which is so strong that although they don't really have any relationship at all, this puddle thing has latched onto the fact that Heather will never leave Bill Potts, because the last thing Bill says to her before she disappears into the puddle is, "Don't go away, I'll be right there." And she says, "No, I promise I won't go anywhere." And then she gets taken by the puddle. And so because of that, that brief offhand comment, the whole episode then ensues where the puddle chases Bill across the universe because Heather said, "No, I won't move, I'll stay here and wait for you to get around the corner." That's just stupid, weak storytelling. But that, unfortunately, is what Moffat seems to fall back on. When he can't think of something good to write, he digs into his bag of classic oldie enemies and drags something else out. In this case, he drags out a singular Dalek and a small group of Movellans fighting in the Dalek-Movellan War. But so it was good to see the Movellans again. But once again, it's just Moffat saying, "Well, I don't really know what to put in this episode. I'm stuck for an idea. I'll just dig into this bag and bring out a couple of enemies that the fans are going to love and the die-hard fans are going to love. I'll throw them in there. There you go. There's Act 2. They're running around in this couple of corridors with a Dalek and a small group of Movellans, and that's it. That's fine. That will please the fans. That's good. That's cool. That gets me past that 15-20 minutes of storytelling. Now I've got to figure out what happens next." But that's the problem. There's no payoff. The ending of this episode is lame. It's weak. You get nothing out of it. So, and this is starting to really annoy me. Hollywood's doing it all the time. Now it's getting into television over there and it's getting television over here. I have no problem with Bill Potts being black. That's fine. I loved David Tennant's companion, Martha Jones, played by Fema Eggman. And she was a fantastic character. I mean, she was smart, she was a doctor, she could stand up to the doctor on a level basis almost. I mean, yeah, okay, the doctor is a genius when it comes to future tech and basically anything. But Martha was his equal in that she could stand up to him, she could have a level conversation with him, they could connect on an emotional level, and he, I think, saw her as an equal, not just somebody who he had to protect. He could depend on her to do things for him and not have to worry too much. So she was fantastic. I love that character. So I don't have a problem with Bill being black. I wouldn't have a problem if the character was gay. That's fine. Why not? We've had gay characters before. Captain Jack, he's gay. One of the other guys in Torchwood, he's gay. Him and Jack have a sort of connection. So they've had gay characters before in Doctor Who. That's not a problem. That's fine. But what they've done in here is they've got a black female gay character. So they've sort of like tried to tick all the boxes that an SJW person would be looking for, to make sure that they're diverse enough and they're covering all the bases and they can't be accused of being PR related anyway, and they can't be accused of being bad and diverse and not casting the right characters, if you know what I'm trying to get at here. So the BBC are basically just going to say, okay, well, we need to make sure we can't be held up here as being the bad people. We need to make sure that the SJW trolls aren't going to come after us. So let's tick these boxes. Okay, so we've got a new companion. What should we do? Okay, so she's black. That's fine. That takes care of race. Sexuality. Well, heterosexual. Yeah, no, they're not going to like that. Okay, well, we'll make her gay. There you go. Tick. Fine. So she's black and she's gay. Fantastic. That'll keep them happy. So that's great. But it's like hammered into us throughout the episode that she is gay. It's like we just make an offhand mention, have her mention somebody in passing that, oh, she's cute, or something like that. But they bash you over the head with it almost through the entire episode. And that's the problem. They hit you over the head with that, and then they try and cram in this emotional connection between her and Heather, and it just doesn't feel natural. It just doesn't feel right. And so at the end of the episode, where it all comes to an end and Heather lets her go and you're supposed to feel something for the character, you just don't feel anything because you haven't had time to bond with this character in the first place because she's brand new. And then you certainly haven't had time to adapt to the fact that her and Heather, supposedly Bill and Heather, have got this connection, this relationship going. There's no proof of that on screen. So for me, as an opening episode of the 10th and final season for Peter Capaldi. This was bad. This is just not good at all. I don't know why it's got such critical acclaim. It just didn't hit for me at all. Now I'm hoping that going forward, obviously I've seen what the BBC put at the end of this episode, like a trailer for the upcoming season, and we've got the Master coming back, we've got Missy coming back, we've got the Mondas Cybermen returning, and they're all the way back from Patrick Troughton's second Doctor, so that should be cool. So we've got some great stuff to look forward to here. And then obviously Peter Capaldi regenerates at the end, and we don't know yet what or who he's going to regenerate into. So that's all to look forward to. So I'm hoping there's going to be some good episodes in this season, but opening up with this one was a mistake. They shouldn't be letting Moffat write these episodes. He's no good at it anymore. I don't know whether he's lost the passion for it. I don't know whether he just lost the creativity. I don't know what it is, but his episodes lately have been terrible. So perhaps he should step back from the writing duties and let somebody else take over, or many somebody else's take over. But for me, like I say, the pilot was a miss. I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope moving forward into this season that they can give Capaldi better stories. I'm fed up with him keep playing the bloody guitar as well in every episode. That's really old now. So let's get past this. Let's give the Doctor a decent last season for Capaldi to go out on a high and see where we get. Okay, there you go. So that's my review and my rant over the pilot, the first episode of the 10th season of Doctor Who. You guys take care. I'll see you for the next episode on Saturday. And until then, take it easy. Bye for now.